version of him decades down the line if he thought it was necessary to crush the rebellion. I mean, there were a lot of kids on Alderaan, but not here, and not now. He should be trying to round the younglings up so they can be rehabilitated and given new homes after all is said and done. If you want to have the children die, have the clones do it. Because I have to again stress that this is at a juncture where Anakin is still very on the fence about all of this, or at least he should be, and it's not going to be until a bit later where I'm able to believe he's drunk enough on the dark side to condone actions like this. I mean, hell, even after killing the Separatist leaders, he cried, and those guys are a much easier pill to swallow than a bunch of innocent children. Now, as for why Vader would choose to stay with Palpatine following the events of this film, despite the fact that he clearly lied to manipulate him, I think the answer is pretty simple, and it's one that works just fine. At that point, Padme is dead, the Jedi are gone, and the Republic is now an empire. Palpatine may be a piece of shit, but he's also the only person Vader has left. And even if he wanted to, he doesn't believe he's in any position to, given the fact that he's crippled. Over the years, of course, he does get a handle on his cybernetics and becomes a force to be reckoned with. One who almost definitely could defeat Palpatine if he really put his mind to it. And in fact, that's sort of what we see at the end of Return of the Jedi. But why would he want to? He's just not in the kind of headspace to try to kill Palpatine by the time of the original trilogy. And that's something I want you all to keep in mind when we eventually get around to talking about those movies, namely Episode 6, because it'll be extremely relevant to things like the throne room fight. But anyway, that's the reason why I think Vader sticks around with Palpatine after all is said and done, and I felt like that was worth mentioning because I've seen some people take issue with it. You know, if his entire reason for becoming a Sith Lord was to save Padme and she died anyway, why would he keep being one? I should stress that I still think we need all those other components to Darth Vader to better flesh him out in this film, and it would do a lot to add to why I think it makes sense for him to keep serving Palpatine, but I tentatively would say the other stuff I laid out is sufficient. But that's the main stuff to do with Anakin's characterization, and Padme's for that matter, because like I said earlier, there really isn't anything else to her other than being Anakin's pregnant wife. So I want to shift focus and talk about the war in a little more depth, because we've gone over it a bit, but there's a lot to say about the intricacies of this vast, complicated, galaxy-spanning conflict, and I think it's a damn shame that these movies barely do anything with it. And since I brought this up a couple times already, I guess the best place to start would be with the fact that the characters in this film act like the deaths of Count Dooku and General Grievous would be enough to end the war. And I'm not sure I buy that, but we're gonna lay it out and see if it can make sense. Because I acknowledge that since this is a war entirely manufactured by Dooku and Sidious, they could have easily rigged it in such a way where the power structure of the Separatist movement was built so that with Dooku dead, there's basically no real leadership that can right the ship in his absence. Yes, there are the Separatist leaders like Newt Gunray, Wat Tambor, those guys that Grievous is constantly moving around. But as we're explicitly shown, those leaders aren't exactly doing too hot right now. Their planets are all under siege, they're constantly having to move around from
3 heart room deaths, that's kind of rough. But there we go. Yippee!